Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahakodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Nahum chapter 3, verse 1. And the header reads, Nineveh's complete ruin. But this isn't talking about ancient Nineveh of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. This is talking about modern-day spiritual Nineveh, spiritual Assyria, the United States of America. Woe or destruction to the bloody city. And the United States is the bloodiest country on the face of the earth. Look at how many hundreds of millions of so-called Negroes and Native Americans died in the establishing of this country. And the so-called Negroes are actually Judites, and the so-called Native Americans are actually Gadites of the 12 tribes of Israel. And besides them, look at all these people that have died in all these wars that America's fought throughout its history. From the Korean War, the Vietnam War, a bunch of wars in Central America, the 2 wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Syrian Civil War, the Libyan Civil War, etc., etc. Millions of people have died from U.S. military adventurism abroad. It is all full of lies, and from its history to its politics to its mainstream media, everything that comes out of the United States of America is lies, forgeries, subterfuge, and robbery. And how was this landmass gotten? It was stolen from the so-called Native Americans. The prey departeth not. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 3. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And how does this well-favored harlot, the United States of America, sell nations and families through her witchcrafts? Look at its entertainment industry. Hollywood, social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc., etc. All these different platforms are used to push this Babylonian American agenda onto the rest of the planet. And what does that mainly involve? Pushing feminism, democracy, and that alphabet group beginning with LG, which is what I'll be dealing with in this video. I'm going to be profiling a clip from Fox News' YouTube channel titled Disney's Woke Agenda Revealed in Leaked Audio. And as we'll see in this clip, those in the higher up positions at Disney are coming out and saying that they're pushing the alphabet group beginning with LG onto people, selling nations and families through her witchcrafts. And besides being known as spiritual Nineveh, spiritual Assyria, this well-favored harlot is also known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. This is Revelation chapter 17. I'm going to start at verse 1. And the header reads, The doom of Babylon. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. These different nations doing business with the United States. This place is known for these different heathens coming here and making a lot of money. But also, the United States pushes a lot of its philosophies onto these different nations. And as it's about to say, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And that's not talking about literal wine. It's talking about philosophies that this well-favored harlot pushes out, that selleth the nations and the families through her witchcrafts. Again, feminism, democracy, capitalism, and that alphabet group beginning with LG. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the U.S. is this woman on top of the beast. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones, and pearls having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this woman was arrayed in fine colors and had jewelry, and she was nice to look upon. And that's what the United States of America used to look like to these different nations. They called it the land of opportunity, the American dream, a place whose streets were paved with gold. You could come here and make anything come true. But as it says, it had a golden cup in her hand full of all abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And what do you have in a cup? Wine. Again, these different wicked and wayward philosophies that America pushes onto the rest of the world. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery, though it's no longer a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Back in Nahum chapter 3, the well-favored harlot, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And like I just said, Babylon the Great, spiritual Nineveh, is no longer a mystery. Why? Because you've got the prophets of the Most High, the men of the Lord, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, out on the highways and byways, preaching the 144% truth of these scriptures, and also putting up video epistles like this, exposing this well-favored harlot for all the abominations that she's pushed onto the rest of the planet. Verse 5, back in Nahum chapter 3, Behold, I am against thee, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. Again, beginning with the prophets of the Most High, correctly breaking down these scriptures and showing that the United States of America is spiritual Nineveh, spiritual Assyria, this well-favored harlot, Babylon the Great, and how she's pushing all these abominations and wayward doctrines onto the rest of the planet. And what this is all ultimately going to culminate into is the United States of America getting hit with 200 million nuclear missiles, which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But now let's get into a little bit of this clip from Fox News' YouTube channel. And also, this is a fair use copyright claim. I do not own the contents in this Fox News video, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. This video is simply used for educational purposes.
Meantime, in other news, remember last week we told you a story about how a number of Disney employees walked off the job last week because they felt that Disney did not do enough to oppose a bill that passed in Florida. It's HB House Bill 1557. And what that bill does, because it has been signed by Governor DeSantis, is it prohibits teachers from providing instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity to children between the ages of kindergarten and third grade. So they just don't want teachers talking to kindergartners, first, second, and third graders about sexual orientation or gender identity. So that we knew for sure because that was in public where they walked off the job. But now Chris Rufo, a journalist, posted on Twitter some videos that show pretty much exactly what Disney behind the scenes is thinking. Watch this.
Roberts.
And how many children across the world watch Disney? They got the DVDs, the toys, they go to Disney World, they dress up like the characters for Halloween, etc., etc. It's a lot. Hey, some of you that may find this video, your children probably go to Disney, watch Disney movies, have been to Disneyland, and have some Disney products in their house. But as we're about to see, Disney, an asset of that well-favored harlot, is used to sell the families and the nations of the earth, the witchcrafts of this well-favored harlot, the United States of America. And a main part of that is that alphabet group. Listen closely.
And like our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like my like not at all secret gay agenda. And so like I feel like I felt like it was, I mean, like maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess like something must have happened in the last like they are turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that like momentum that I felt, like that sense of I don't have to be afraid to like, let's have these two characters kiss, let's in the background, like I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to like if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud of them. But like I just was like, no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
So it's not at all secret agenda anymore, because that video, which was apparently an all hands meeting about the Florida law, now Chris Rufo has posted that on Twitter, and everybody's talking about the woke agenda of the world of Disney.
Disney was hesitant to react to this bill at first. They got a lot of backlash, the walk-offs. People, they say that customers and employees were complaining, why aren't you getting involved? Why aren't you stopping Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature from this? And then Disney comes out and they oppose it strongly, and they say that they're going to work to repeal it. But the Florida legislators, they make a good point. They said students can talk about whatever they want to bring up in the classroom to their
Disney, any other mainstream entertainment coming out of Hollywood, the mainstream news, anything that the United States of America pushes is not for the betterment of the people. It's for breaking down people physically, morally, and spiritually. Because again, this is the well-favored harlot, mystery, Babylon the Great, the abomination with that golden cup full of filthiness, making the whole world drunk off her wine or her philosophies. But let's hear that one part again.
Exactly what Disney behind the scenes is thinking. Watch this.
Roberts and like our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like my like not at all secret gay agenda, and so like I feel like I felt like it was, I mean, like maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess like something must have happened in the last like they are turning it around, they're going hard, and then all that like momentum that I felt, like that sense of I don't have to be afraid to like, let's have these two characters kiss, let's in the background like I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to like if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud of them. But like I just was like, no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
So it's not at
And now I'm gonna skip to the 4-minute and 16-second mark.
Their corporate values. And one other bit of information from the leaked video. The Disney president, a woman by the name of Carrie Burke, says she wants to see at least 50% of Disney characters in the future be LGBT or a racial minority. So Disney...
That's it with this clip. Now I'm going to go to a little bit of this second clip from Jimmy Ippolito's YouTube channel titled Disney Executives Pushing the Happy Agenda on Our Kids, just to show a few more examples of the madness being pushed by this well-favored harlot.
I'm here as a mother of...
And again, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I don't own any of the footage used in this clip, and I don't stand to gain from it monetarily. It's simply for educational purposes. But listen closely.
Of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me, because I have heard so much from so many of my colleagues over the course of the last couple of weeks, in open forums and through emails and phone conversations. And I feel a responsibility to speak, not just for myself, but for them, to all of us. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters, and not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me. And I can tell you, it's something that I feel perhaps had this moment not happened, I as a leader and me as my colleagues would not have focused on. And going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be. And and I hope this is a moment where, shoot, the 50% of the tears, sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go back.
Last summer, we removed all of the gendered greetings in relationship to our lives fields. So we no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We've provided training for all of our cast members in relationship to that. So now they know it's hello everyone or hello friends. We are in the process of changing over those recorded messages, and so many of you are probably familiar when we brought the fireworks back to the Magic Kingdom. We no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we say dreamers of all ages. And so I love the fact that it's opened up the creativity, the opportunity for our cast members to look at that. We have our cast members working with merchandise, working with food and beverage, working with all of our guest-facing areas where perhaps, we want to create that magical moment with our cast members, with our guests. And we don't want to just assume because someone might be in our interpretation, maybe presenting as female, that they may not want to be called princess. So let's think differently about how do we really engage with our guests in a meaningful and inclusive way that makes it magical and memorable for everyone.
I love Disney's content.
Just complete madness. Woe to the bloody city, which is full of lies, that well-favored harlot who selleth the nations and the families through her witchcrafts. Now let's get back to these precepts. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And besides being known as spiritual Nineveh, spiritual Assyria, Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt. And from those clips I just played and what you see going on daily in the United States of America, you can see why it's known as spiritual Sodom. It's the main nation that's pushing the alphabet group onto the rest of the planet. And it's known as spiritual Egypt because it's serving in the exact same function that ancient Egypt served for the children of Israel, as a place of hardcore bondage and slavery. And those dead bodies are the spiritually dead bodies of the children of Israel, known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the streets of that so-called great city, the United States of America. Before the prophets came on the scene, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans were calling yourself Black, Mexican, Native American, Cherokee, Choctaw, etc., etc. But with the prophets out here preaching that you're the children of Israel and preaching that this current system of things is about to go down, you've got the remnant that's woken up and coming back to their power, Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. But 2/3 still refuse to come back to their power and want to be rebellious and remain spiritually dead and be a part of this Babylonian system. And hey, that so-called black woman or Judite is a perfect example of a spiritually dead Israelite. And like I've been saying throughout the video, for all this wickedness that the United States of America has been pushing onto the entire planet, it's going to get hit with 200 million nuclear missiles and get turned into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. This is 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha, chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 8. Woe be unto thee, Ashur, Assyria. Again, this is speaking of spiritual Assyria, the United States. Thou that hidest the unrighteous in thee, those that are a part of the alphabet group and promoting that death style onto the rest of the planet. O thou wicked people, remember what I did unto Sodom and Gomorrah. And what did the Most High do to ancient Sodom and Gomorrah for pushing these very same wicked ideologies out? It was hit with fire and brimstone from the sky, whose land lieth in clouds of pitch and heaps of ashes. It's no more inhabitable. Even so also will I do unto them that hear me not, saith the Almighty Yahweh. And this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to get hit with modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles. This is Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 19. And Babylon, Nineveh, Assyria, Sodom and Egypt, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, that woman clothed in scarlet with all the pearls and gems in that golden cup, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah with that ancient fire and brimstone, and this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to get hit with that modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear tipped ICBMs. And we know that this isn't talking about ancient Babylon, which is modern day Iraq, because it's still inhabited. But as it says in verse 20, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. When this place is hit by those nuclear missiles, it's going to be turned into the biblical lake of fire, and then that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards, where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only desert creatures will dwell here. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And with all these end-time signs that Yahushua HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, told his disciples to look for in Matthew chapter 24, either taking place or in the process of taking place as we speak, we know that Babylon's time is near to come and her days are no longer being prolonged. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope your sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, the so-called white people, at the head of this well-favored harlot, Babylon the Great. So as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.